Good morning, everyone. As I suppose Joshua would have. Good morning, TRI. Woo! I always love those memes and
Good
stuff.
morning,
Hey, there we are. We're gonna
everyone.
blast our speakers up. Anyway, good to see. YouTube is up and running. Gerald's at the kids' table. He's got his bib on, and he's ready to gorge on some PMA. Anyway, see you guys over on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode. And we've got, thank you very much, Shane, for that interesting presentation yesterday about security. And of course, kaboom! What happens overnight? A big old security threat. So if anything, that was well timed. Thank you very much, Shane. And coming from the jungles of Siberia, if I'm not mistaken, we have the bear in the house. Thomas, how are you, sir?
Hey, boo boo.
Hey, chasing after the. I guess I have to do it like that, right? So, what's on the menu today, Yogi? It's not even close. Anyway, good morning, sir. Nice to see you.
Good to be here.
I'm pretty nasally anyway, so I probably sound like that Boo Boo character. But anyway, I do just to report to everybody. Thomas is out in the field, and he was saying that he's Wi-Fiing it, so he might pop in and out. If he does pop out, we'll just be patient, wait for him to pop back in, and resume where we left off. But great to see Thomas, and really looks like we have quite a full house. I see Grimm's here. Grimm's even got his camera on. He's not camera shy today. That I think means that he wants the spotlight. But hey, we'll just throw him on camera so everybody can see. There he is. You want to give a big wave to everybody, Grim? He's the only one who's got the balls enough to actually have the camera on. Everybody else, including Brian, nope, sorry, I'm camera shy. Ain't gonna happen. So thank you, Grim, for being so up there on it. But anyway, welcome back to the frivolity, everybody. If anything, it was really cool. We were sort of chatting in the lounge, and of course, Jeremy, our rock and roll bull. This is just music to his ears, but it was interesting. I like to keep on just sort of the leaderboard, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, and just sort of get a sort of a feel for what the broader market is. And I really do feel like we came to some sort of major apex there, and we're enjoying a nice little. Basically broader crypto market rally. But I'd also say too, I think something really big just happened in the world. We sort of had alluded to it a bit ago, in that something really big happened in the currency markets. And I think, with our commentary about options expiry last week, I think there's a lot of parallels to what's going on here in Stockland. Interest rates, they were saying that the 10-year paper just broke to new highs. This is the long bond. TN, I think is the long dated. Yeah, there's the 10-year. This is the ultra 10-year Treasury note futures. You can see it just broke to new highs. If anything here, we got to love this because it means no recession right away, no yield curve inversion, more of the insanity. But what it does mean is the stock market's probably not going to be very happy right now. And you can see stocks are heavy. Remember, we talked about that options expiry. Tech stocks are really getting punished. And it's really interesting. Like I was reading on the rags overnight, the Japanese have, and I think this is what sort of kicked it off, was the Japanese had come out overnight and over the past few days and said that they feel like they're getting near the end of their quantitative easing, their end of their need for inflation stimuli, if you will, in the economy, their version of quantitative easing. But they're not there yet. And at the same time, and I think the market kind of wanted to hear that, yeah, okay, the Japanese, they see inflation coming back, they're ready to rock and roll, and they just didn't get it. And so money is fleeing the yen like crazy. But I think, most importantly, and we have to understand this as market participants, the US dollar has put in a very substantial pivot here. This is a fear proxy index, right? as the Japanese said, they just don't have the inflation there yet. I'm not quite sure, maybe Thomas, because he often is on the ground in Europe, and we have Jeremy, you're on the ground in Europe. I mean, and Axel, you're over in Germany. I mean, what is the anecdotal evidence, the talk out of the econs out of Europe? Does it feel weak? Does it feel strong? I don't know, but the long and short of it here, something big happened here in the US dollar. And, I got to hand it to Thomas. Thomas sort of warned us a week or so ago. He's like, I'm not believing anything I see until I see either a big fat M or a big fat W on the US dollar. And we had sort of painted these wide ranges and what the hell is the dollar going to do? And you can see we've gone up and broken the top of this range here. And done it on some momentum too. Actually, on a funny side note, one of the students who is picking apart our scripts, we went, I like John Murphy's site for stockcharts.com and getting the textbook definition for these indicators. And actually, the way that this indicator was written, the math here technically isn't correct. According to the scripts off of popular sites like Murphy and stuff, it should be this is the way the indicator was written by, I think, and we even have it in the document. So I'm not going to blame it on anybody, but 100 times the close minus the upper and upper minus the lower to calculate our Williams percentage R oscillator. It turns out that the actual correct formula, this is just an FYI, a little bit of a tangent, is 1 minus 100 times upper minus the close. If you want to go in and change your script, you can just ask me for the adjusted scripts. You should be able to figure that out pretty much on your own. It's just like one small line of code. And what's really interesting is Joe and I were having this conversation this morning. I think it was Joe. I'm not sure if I got his name right. I think it was Joe, but it might have been another gentleman. And we were sort of going through the studies, and it turns out that the study produces almost exactly the same results. So it's not like it's brutally off, but for those sticklers who want absolutely textbook definitions of the indicators, and that's just a side note. It was just something that I noticed this morning, so I just wanted to mention that. But long and short of it here off of the US dollar index, something big has happened here. And the irony of it all, this is the true irony of all of this, is this is exactly what's supposed to happen according to all of Brian's crazy theories that he teaches in these courses, is that we are now supposed to go through a period where the US dollar transitions back into a bull. I don't know how deep this has to go before that big transition happens, but if this is the transition window and we transition into a massive bull, well, so be it. But something really significant happened here. Now, I would argue that, and this is something I wasn't thinking about recently, and it was a little bit sloppy on my part. And if anything, this is exactly why I like to do these shows, and I like this website, and Thomas and I have talked about this repeatedly, is when we do these shows on a daily basis, it's like, okay, you know what? I missed something the other day. Let's make sure we're a bit sharp to stay on the ball. And that is, and I mentioned this briefly yesterday, very rarely do you ever see stock markets crash heading into a political event. Because in essence, that's going to affect the outcome of the election. And if people are like, oh, the economy sucks, the stock market's crashed, I'm wiped out, I'm broke, they're going to vote for the socialists, right? Just think FDR. So the point here is that, and I've been doing this silly game for 30 years, I have never seen the stock market crash ahead of a political event. And we obviously have a really big political event coming up this November. This is going to be sort of the litmus test of the Trump presidency. In the United States of America, the Congress is completely separate to the executive branch. And this is just a little bit of, civics for you. And if the populace is not happy with the president, they will elect the opposite power into power to control Congress. And basically, the president becomes a lame duck. There's not really much he can do. As it stands, and after this past election in the United States, Mr. Trump is a Republican, and the Congress was Republican. They're basically controlled by the same party, which ironically enough is actually pretty dangerous, right? The market never really wants one party to be running the whole show, but nonetheless, that's the way it is. So the point of the matter here is, come this November, if the Democrats take control of Congress, take it back, then Mr. Trump's whole sort of agenda comes into question. And then, of course, you can imagine this guy, he's not making a lot of political friends. The Democrats are probably going to come after him with, like with pitchforks. The point that I noticed was, and now we're going to listen to the Mr. Market, is you notice the last time when the US dollar index itself put in a W, double bottom, there was obviously a pullback against the double bottom, but the end result was a pretty substantial rally in the US dollar. And then also, too, we have to sort of think about time frames. So, and I apologize, Thomas, I'm talking way too much here today, but I really wanted to get this off my chest. So from the time of the breakout, I think, RLZs, hunting setups here, awesome. And if you're long gold, right, the pullback following the breakout will often give you an opportunity to hop off the other side of the trade. In this case, if you're long gold, this counter trend rally should produce a rally in gold, which should let you off if you want to get out. But often produces these big honking rallies afterward. And then if we just go and take that same study and then think about big fundamental events coming up in the fall, do you see how that lines up with nice into October? So my hunch here is that the wind, the tone is, and I don't know whether, Grim, you're down in the States, Thomas, I don't know whether you're in the States, anybody else in the States, really would be interesting, James out of the Midwest, to get sort of a proxy from you, just to sort of see what's the tone. Do people believe that the Democrats are going to win this congressional election? If so, then the US dollar rallies. Because remember, Democrats, US dollar, they're US dollar bulls. Keep inflation low, right? So the working class doesn't get screwed at the grocery store and the gas pump, yada, yada, yada. If the market believes that the Republicans are going to win, then that's bad for the US dollar. And, Joe Sixpack, fuck them, $10 a gallon gasoline, so what? Who cares? So it's interesting how the market is actually voting here, I think. And they often say that elections are actually, the market sort of figures out who's going to be the winner 6 months ahead of time. So I find this really interesting. And then couple this image, and remember, the US dollar rallying is a risk-off proxy. Couple that with our conversation about the stock market and Kevin's assignment to watch the open interest last week, the big April contract. And remember, we said Wall Street just got handed a shitload of stock. They're not going to be happy at all, and they're going to want to dump. And oh boy, get used to this kind of price action. This is what I think we have to expect going forward out of stock market. And I found it interesting too that if we line up, what letter of the alphabet's coming up on your VIX index there, Thomas?
Looks like a wubba wubba wubba.
So I'm sure, and I hope you took a look at those VIX options that we looked at the other day. I bet you there is a trade there. But anyway, the point I just wanted to make was I happen to now see overlapping harmonics developing here. We just saw this on Bitcoin, right? We had 3 harmonics that painted a level on that Japanese damn Bitcoin chart, and that was like basically the bottom. It was like perfect. Well, now I can see 2 harmonics developing here with a pretty good shot of this U.S. stock market one going back to this 246. Now, elections are ebb and flow, right? Maybe this is the latest week's polls show that the Democrats are ahead. I don't know. But I do get the feeling that the market is trying to vote here. They're actually speaking to us. The question is, are we listening? All right, so that's what I wanted to sort of talk about broader market. I apologize, went way off on a tangent there. Thomas, where do you want to take us today?
It's interesting that you brought up the politics of all this, and I just want to make a quick comment. And I'm by no means a political expert, so anything that I'm going to say is purely anecdotal and from my own experience talking to people, not only in the US, but outside in Europe. But from what I can tell, the majority of the voters who voted for Trump are still very happy with him. They don't see him as the monster that some Democrats see him as. So in terms of the congressional elections coming up, I think it's really going to depend on, obviously, on the individual states and locations there as to how those unfold. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the places that did vote Republican stay Republican. I think that's something that we need to pay attention to. As far as, you know, the way that the dollar's reacting, and yeah, I mean, definitely, I've seen what Brian's talking about, where the market figures out ahead of time who's going to win. But, you know, I'm a little up in the air as to what's going to happen here. I mean, sure, the dollar's breaking out, but it seems so noisy. And the 10 years breaking out, and I know Jeff Gundlach's been talking about that forever. So that's finally happening. I just don't see this taking off like a rocket ship. You know, like I see the dollar kind of still in the range. It's broken out to some degree. Where's my dollar chart? But I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for a bigger pop. I really want to see the dollar move up to a 91, 92 handle, 92 and a half. Then I'll be really convinced. We're still kind
I see the 200 SMA sitting there at 92.
Yeah,
kind of like what we saw last time. I agree with you. I'd like to see a little bit more up, and then maybe like a month or two pullback, kind of Wyckoff kind of pullback, and then we sort of figure out, you know, and not surprising. You know, we'll have U.S. fiscal year end. They're going to want to. My hunch is they're probably going to into that fiscal year end. They're going to want to settle it somewhere around in here.
Yeah,
and then, you know, out of the election, we're going to find out. You know, if it starts turning into a snowball, and you know that Mueller guy and stuff is all the rhetoric and shit that's just getting out of control, then I think this scenario turns into one of these insane face rips. But I agree with you. This is very early still.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, polls are coming out, and those will dictate the direction of the market. Also, it feels like an FX market. I mean, it obviously is an FX market, but I see a lot more wishy-washy. It's not going to be
like Russia.
Well, you know, I had a talk with a guy here in Europe about Russia. He told me that Russia basically stated that they're definitively no longer interested in using US dollars, and they're going to do whatever they can to crush the dollar. I can't find any news events about that. I don't know if this guy was bullshitting me, but I mean, Europe definitely gets a different news feed than we do.
What's the Russian the ruble's futures? I mean, that's the irony of it all, is we'll just let the market tell us. There we are, R6. It's been a while since I've looked at the ruble. Oh boy. Oh, Jesus. Oh God. And, you know, love the Russians, love the Americans, whatever you want. If it's one thing I've learned is you don't fuck with the emperor while the emperor's in power. You know, if the emperor's teetering and you want to jump on him, great. But I don't think it makes sense for Russia to go to war with the US right now. You know, physically or monetarily. I just don't think they have the firepower. And the problem here is, I think the Russian currency is very much like all the other commodity currencies, right? And did you watch this the other day? This should actually speak highly to you, right? Canadian dollar looks like shit. Australian dollar looks like poop. And the rand, right? And we were talking about the political stuff going on in South Africa. You know, these commodity currencies, they're not playing from a position of strength right now. If anything, I think they're playing from a position of weakness. So they look pretty heavy. So I don't know. You know, and then of course, have you ever met an opinionated Russian? No offense to our Russian. I don't even think we have any Russian members here, but they're passionate. Let's put it that way. All right. So what are you looking at there? Big U.S. tech stocks getting punched in the nose?
Yeah, I'm just checking the tech sector, because I know we were talking when the Boeing news came out and the trade wars with China, and we started to see the warning shot, right? Tech's started coming off pretty heavily into the beginning of April. And then I said, wait for the bounce back and start hunting for options.
Look at that fucking trade, eh?
Isn't that sick? I mean, I wish I took this. I need to start hunting more. I think we're going to get really good opportunities. I mean, this gap is obviously being filled here, and then maybe we get a second chance. But I'm going to be taking my cue from the NASDAQ here, which is following in step with the rest of the tech. So I'm going to start updating the options group. I've kind of neglected you guys for a while because I've been waiting for the puts to come in. And it looks like we're getting really, really close for some of these to come in. So we'll see as far as any decent and attractive looking SOF plays that we can take advantage of, because I think that there should be quite a few going into this market.
Yeah, it's interesting how I guess what's happening here is the market's going to clean itself up to get ready for this election. And if the business as usual scenario plays out, then a base will be put in, and I think stocks will just go nuts to the upside.
Yeah, and that's kind of
massive political shift in Washington. The market has already cleaned itself up. There'll probably be one more FU move to the downside to get all the public to sell. And ironically enough, that'll probably put in a base.
Yeah, I guess what I'm really looking for in the medium to longer term, and I think this probably happens before the middle of 2025 or so, is a US dollar that just runs away to the upside, with stocks running away to the upside, gold running away to the upside, and just like in this amazing boom that happens. But really, that's just
gold and the US dollar moving up together.
Everything. I see gold, dollar, and stock market all moving up together. But unfortunately, when that happens, you're essentially looking at the demise of the United States. And this is something that I think is closer to becoming a reality as I see things playing out here. If you see the dollar start taking off and going higher and higher and higher, I mean, just think about what that does to our economy. It makes it really difficult for us to do business with other nations. Nobody's going to want to do business with us because we're so expensive. And everyone at home is going to think it's great, and the stock market's going up, and more people are going to be piling money in here. But you have to ask yourself, why is that really happening? So just
sounds like a crypto exit pump.
Yeah, I hate to be all doomsday-ish, but I'm not going to go any further. But that's kind of what my thoughts are in this going forward, is that I'm just looking for the dollar to start looking like a runaway train, and then I know trouble's not far behind it. But I don't want to.
Well, just remember the Volcker rally, right? Like what I think has to be I think what has to happen here is we have to transition into the economy has enough strength that all of this fiscal stimulus that's been put into this system actually starts getting lent out through the sort of reserve banking system apparatus or whatever, which would sort of lead to that sort of runaway hyperinflation type scenario. I don't know how we see that would spell stocks move up, gold moves up, but I don't know how the US dollar would move up at the same time though. So
yeah, there's a great book. It's called This Time is Different. It's by a couple of Princeton economic professors. And this book is like 500 pages, and it reads like a PhD level economics course, and it is thick. I mean, it takes days to get through just 50 to 100 pages, but basically what it does is it details how every society going all the way back in time, how their eventual demise comes to pass. And you start to read about, ancient Rome, Egypt, you see what happened to them, what they did wrong, and you start thinking about how that applies to today, and you're just like, oh shit, how this time is different. Oh wait, no, it's not.
Yeah. In fact, actually, there's a guy on Twitter that I've been chatting with quite a bit recently. What's really interesting is, into the sort of Great Depression, rates, well, not rates, but levels of debt went quite high. And we're starting to see that same sort of scenario play out. So I've been sort of bantering back and forth with him about the coming recession. And of course, the bottom line here is you guys all are expecting Bitcoin to go to $100,000. This is the kind of scenario that would basically create that. So it should all be music to all you crypto kiddos' ears. And the interesting thing is they always say, careful what you wish for. You might just get it good and hard. So many people in this space have been like, down with the system. Anyway, well, you might just get it. The whole fucking system collapses. Bitcoin goes to $100,000, but you don't go outside your door. You might get fucking mugged. So, we could very easily be heading into that kind of scenario. This next recession is going to be pretty nasty. I'll tell you that much, by crackers.
Yeah. And
anyway, happy, joy. Let's all go buy some Bitcoins.
Let's transition to happy.
All right. Bitcoin tastes great. How are we doing on your 200 SMA tag? We must be getting racing towards that, eh?
Yeah, I think we're really close. Where's this thing at? This one. Let's move this to. And you got me looking at that damn yen chart now because
I'm just worried about Mr. Gotch coming out and going, oh, can I sell Bitcoins now?
Yeah, that's definitely on hold for now. The civil rehabilitation thing is gaining serious steam. They still have to accept it. It's not accepted yet, but I think the court has paused definitively any sales of Bitcoin until they decide what to do with the civil rehab proceeding. Yeah. All right, so where are we at? So there's the last rise in 2014. We've got the death cross that happened here. So there's that. And where are we today? This is a 4-hour. Let's move this to a daily. So you can see that once the death cross happened, we tagged the underside of the 50, which is the yellow line. And then we eventually moved on up to the 200 period. But this took months. And you can see what's happening here is not only have we already broken above the 50, but we're well on our way to tagging this 200 period moving average. So whatever happened back here is happening here on steroids, way faster. And that, I don't like to say this, but it concerns me, right? Like when you're breaking out this quickly and you're going away from those levels so fast, granted, we do have decent market structure coming in here at 38.2 on the daily, but I don't know, once this ABCD plays out and we tag that 200 period moving average, it's right into a reload zone. You gotta have your warning lights on going forward here. It's definitely, as far as trades are concerned, it's way too late to be going long here. You have to wait for this thing to settle down. If you're going to pull the trigger long, you're going to have to risk a lot to the downside. 9,300 is the current price, and you're going to be risking about $1,000 to the low, and even more to that if you want to use this range here and these lows to defend that position. So, definitely not a good place to be entering. And everyone should know that at this point, going through the class and listening to us drone on every day. Hopefully that's not surprising information. And everyone's kind of just like, yeah, but tell us when we should get out. When should we leave our long positions? We're all making so much money. When should we sell? Well, should we start with the higher time frames? I guess we got to look at the daily and see what's going on in the internals with Stamp. And if you take a peek here, if I can get the damn chart up, I'm not going to use Coinbase, but let me switch this to Stamp.
Let's go. I haven't been checking in on the YouTubers. Am I doing an okay job today, guys, or am I totally butchered this? Bob T, Gary Wolf, how we doing? You guys, because I think I had this screen screwed up there. Anyway. Not getting any feedback, so we must be okay. No dinner from me. Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Yep. They're reporting we're doing good. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. Just wanted to make sure we're doing a decent job here.
Good. All right. So what do we have to be careful of here? We got to be careful of, obviously, these fibs like I talked about on the daily, but pay attention to Willie. We're already overbought. Now, you always have to remember, just because Willie is overbought is not a reason for a trade, not a reason for a short. This kind of overbought action, this can go on for freaking ever. Look what happened back here, back in March when we're going higher. This was overbought for a little bit. And I think if we even go much further, the embedded overbought condition can last for a long time. And I know Brian has a
Yeah, we
famous
get
saying.
into a strongly trending market state, then look out. In fact, actually, I had a really good example of that. Darn, you scratched my brain there. What the hell was it? Because it was a really cool example of that. I wanted to show everybody, but I think you caught me with my pants down. Damn it.
That's a weird mental image, scratching your brain.
Yeah. I was looking at a really cool example of that earlier, but I don't know where the hell it is. Darn. Anyway, if I find it, I'll try and show it to you. But very good point Thomas makes. And if any, oh yeah, no, but I don't know where the chart is. But I was there's one guy on Twitter, the Carpe Noctem guy. We brought him in recently, and he said, he was telling us about Ichi and all that. He loves his.
Wasn't that like a year ago?
Was that long ago? There was.
I think it was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah.
But he'd been talking about Adam and Eve setups on the charts. I think I showed an Adam and Eve yesterday, but it was a really good example of how, and I'm going to have to find it. I'll find this screenshot. I don't want to half-ass this. So I'll try and make a mental note to show you guys tomorrow. But really good example where you can use the embedded. The deeply embedded market state occurs during a strongly trending market, and that's where you get your Adam top. But the embeddedness looks like an Eve. It's a wide distributed overbought condition, kind of like what you see on Thomas's screen. Oh, where'd it go? Anyway, it was on there. And then on the Eve part of the Adam and Eve top, that second part of the top, the embeddedness, it comes out of overbought and just zips up and kisses the overbought embeddedness and then comes right back down. It's like the exact opposite of the Adam and Eve setup in price. I got to show it to you tomorrow. So if anything, I got to shut the hell up. Continue talking, Thomas. Like I said, you scratched my brain there and it hurt. And I don't want to, because it was such a good example. I wanted to show you guys. Oh, well.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. In fact, you keep talking. I'm going to look for the chart while you're talking away. So you are presenting to everyone, I think.
All right. So yeah, like Brian's saying, we are overbought. I mean, yeah, we're overbought. And what usually happens is in these markets is you get a little bit of a pullback, and it's enough where it sets up, it gets a whole bunch of people interested, and it doesn't go all the way, right? It's just enough where you get maybe a day or two or so of action of a pullback just to recharge everything. And you see things start to go back up in that direction, continue trending higher. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here. What I think we have to keep in mind going forward is that we're going to start coiling here. You can see the MACD is starting to put in these weird lower and higher lows and higher and lower lows, yada, yada, yada. You just want to wait for this divergence to come in. You want to wait to see, is this going to give us our bearish divergence on a 4-hour with a market structure? And then you can paint a picture as to where the retracement is going to go. I don't think in this market we're going to get a strong pullback until you get concrete evidence from everyone's trading setups. For me, I'm going to look for the market structure. Everyone else obviously loves using market structure. Until that comes in with a divergence, I can't really play the short side here. That to me is the most powerful way of being able to signal a pullback on a trending market. Yeah. And when I'm in it, let me just finish the one sentence.
Okay.
The trending market state has always screwed me up. And that's why I use the candle body rule, and candle body close, in that if I have the candle body giving us that confirmed M with a confirmed divergence there, then I have the green light. But until all those things come in, I can't do anything. And that's why I used to get all these fake signals back then, was because I was trading based on wicks on the higher time frames, and I wasn't able to get my entry properly. And I got faked out, just like everyone else gets faked out trading this market. So just that's what I'm waiting for, and that's what I'm that I'll be looking for. So Brian,
Yeah,
go for it. Did you find it?
a couple things. And we mentioned this the other day, and if you look at this screen, I think it's probably a really good example. In a trending market state, this is the kind of shit that they do. Market just slowly works its way higher. You know, everybody's lulled into, yeah, this is a bull market, and then all of a sudden, just wham, out of nowhere, they just bitch slap you. And if anything, this is the hallmark of market state. Seeing these just violent, quick snapbacks, and of course, on this snapback, everybody goes, yeah, see, I told you it was a bear. I told you it was a bear. It's going to go down. And then the motherfucker just either consolidates and makes a new high, or it just turns around in, like this case, and just goes right back up to the top of the range. So, again, a good anecdotal conversation, good anecdotal evidence. Actually watching price action, and this happened through the New York Kill Zone this morning, you know, for like the day traders, just way too violent. You can't touch this. It's just too violent. And we're still in an up move. If anything, what we have to do now is, if this is a continuation, can you see the potential bot that's going to slowly form here? And you'd like to see a nice consolidation, at least 33. So there's 38.2. So we've done 33. Maybe we put in 3 higher lows, and away we go. We can start hunting longs again. So really good comment there from Thomas about trending market state, and him identifying, you know, how he's done really well, or done, you know, not so high in the past based on market state, and running his particular trading strategies. And I love how he's even said now, you know, if I see that this is a market trending state, well, I've got to wait for really solid evidence that indeed this thing has reversed. So,
and I can use that to my advantage too. When I'm already in a bullish trade, I won't take it off until I get that market structure reversal. Otherwise, this thing's just trying to fake you out of the trade. I mean, anyone that's been sitting long, that kind of action that Brian just pointed out, that's designed to shake bulls out of their own positions. Because I mean, hell, if you see something sell off that quickly, you're like, oh shit, it's going all the way down. But really, just take a look at the technicals that are on Brian's chart. It was just a 38.2 tag.
Yeah. So, and also too, what's ironic is that because this low is slightly lower than this low, we may actually even be creating a new bullish divergence here, just to piss you off, right? So, now I found the screen. This is what I wanted to show you earlier. This is sort of this Adam and Eve. This isn't really the best example, but I do often see when Willie gets stupidly overbought, he parks himself. Does this look like a pretty strongly trending market state? Sure looks like it to me. And then you get this sort of just quick little boopy-doop, and you see that cute little M right there. But as I said, you know, if we're trading candlestick patterns or anything, we didn't even really get any price to work with here on this setup. But if anything, that was what I wanted to show you earlier. You can, you know, the great example where Willie can stay stupidly overbought and quote unquote embedded for a while. Doesn't mean you take the short trade here. And if anything, what I wanted to show you guys, and I'll endeavor to show this to you later on. I do in the level 1 program when we go through the Willie module. Really good example where you can actually sort of get a barometer feel for the strength of the market state. And when the market is embedded like this, what we really want to see is the embeddedness play out. Then a counter trend rally and a very quick little embedded. And it's the exact opposite of that Adam and Eve setup in price, where Adam is like the spike and then Eve is the slow rolling over top. In the embeddedness, it actually works the exact opposite way, where the market is trending strongly. So you get that rounded turn, and then the actual trade from the momentum perspective is just the quick, whoops, actually I did that backwards, is the quick stab up, right, into that overbought zone. So it's something that I've been working on. I wanted to show you guys, really good example of this Adam and Eve kind of thinking. I've been seeing this a lot on Twitter and stuff, and I do, a couple people on the site were asking about it. I've been sort of, and this isn't really the best example because this high should be higher than these highs, but it was also a really good anecdote, and I want to tie this together where the actual momentum tools that you use should do the exact opposite. So on the Adam part of price, we have a big spike. Then the Eve part is a slow rollover. And in the momentum studies, it's the exact opposite. So this is sort of, like what Thomas was telling you just a few minutes ago, right? This is the you do not want to be hunting shorts through this. If anything, you want to let this break. And then on this counter trend move, when his Willie indicator just spikes into overbought, very quickly, these are like the fucking sickest setups ever. And you can also see this could turn into a massive bearish MACD divergence. So as Thomas was also saying just a few minutes ago, and I kind of agree with him, it almost feels like the market's coming to some sort of coil here. And really, we have to wait for the resolution of this coil. If we break down here, then that actually confirms a massive bearish divergence in the MACD indicator. If we bottom and we break out here, well, that actually confirms a bullish divergence in the MACD indicator. So I think, if anything, taking setups right here, right now, a little bit dangerous. We should probably let this play itself out. And then, like I said, this could bot up here, setting up the next leg higher, or we could M out, double top. And my hunch is if this thing does M, Thomas, are you probably going to be hunting this level as a nice little short location going forward, maybe on like a counter trend rally kind of thing?
I'm probably going to wait for it to come in on a higher time frame.
Oh yeah,
if it comes
in a chart.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes in on the 15 minute, it's going to make me wonder, is this just another fake out? Sure, we could go down and tag 38.2 again, but I'm not going to put much credence into a 15-minute pullback.
This is my day trader chart. Sorry about that, Thomas.
Hey, it's certainly a valid trade, right? If you get an M on there and you get a nice divergence that confirms, take the damn trade on the 15-minute, but have a realistic target.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to give you an idea, right? The day trader group hunting setups through the London kill zone. I think Jacob and his buddies were hunting this cute little empire right here, and it turned out to be a really nice trade. Cool. So that's the kind of time frame that the day traders are working off of.
Yeah, I like that trade. That works because you got a tag on the underside of the original breakout. Yeah, not a bad trade.
Okay, sorry to get everybody off on a tangent there. That was a bad form of me. Where should we go next, sir?
Well, we have to remember what's going on right now is that we're finally getting a relief rally, right? Everyone that I talk to that's gotten into crypto in October, November, and more importantly, December and January, they're not even looking at the damn price. I mean, the people that I talked to yesterday who were in crypto and buying Ripple and freaking everything under the sun that they could get their hands on, were buying it at the highs. And I asked them about it, and their heads kind of look down. They avoid eye contact, and they're just like, well, I haven't really checked the price. I'm hoping I'm going to hold it, and I'm just going to hope it's going to go back up again. Well, here's the problem I see with that, and that the media's taken on to this also, is that we're obviously getting this rally, but the news that's coming out is being so optimistic, and everything just looks so rosy right now. It just makes me feel uncomfortable, right? I don't like this thing to. What's that?
Too far, too fast.
Exactly, kind of what we were saying when we looked at that 200 period moving average cross chart with the death cross, and you're seeing other news come out too that's just like, oh, why wouldn't crypto take over the world? And you got Tim Draper who's like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to be the best invention ever, the best thing I've ever invested in my life. And you got shit like that coming out, and I mean, you can't help but like, oh my God, I just want to put all my money into this right now. And that's what everyone's thinking, because they're like, wow, Bitcoin went to 20,000, and before that it was like 4 or 5, and right now it's at almost 9. Maybe it could go to new highs again. And this is what's going to happen: is the hype train's going to leave the station. People are going to start pouring their money into the train, and then it's just going to go back to the station again. I mean, they need to suck more and more money out and make it transition hands. And this article is kind of like, you really have to follow the tracks, the tea leaves, if you will, read the tea leaves and follow the trail of breadcrumbs. And I think the financial institutions have finally realized that they need to get in on this, and they need to get on it big, and they need to change the way that everyone is going to, they need to change where everyone's going to buy their crypto. So this article came out about Goldman Sachs, about launching their own trading desk. And I know I've been highlighting a bunch of executives that have been leaving Goldman Sachs to go to blockchain. But the question is, why aren't they keeping those guys? So instead, they're going out to blockchain and bringing people to them. So they just hired this new guy, Justin Schmidt, and he's going to explore how Goldman Sachs.
Hey, wasn't that guy a student of ours, Justin Schmidt? That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, so there's Thomas the Bear who we're consulting with. No, so I mean,
Grim guy's buying, starting a fund of his own. It's so funny though. We literally on a daily basis, we get emails from old alumni who started up their trading desk, they started up sites and stuff, and they want us to advertise their sites on TRI. It's like every fucking day they're coming in now.
Really? What are they offering you? Can you say that publicly?
No, I don't want to talk about the latest one. I mean, it's remarkable. It's just it's good because it shows that we obviously are teaching people how to do this, and they're making good money from this. But it's you can feel the shill, right? And I'm not big on the shill.
I hear you. Yeah, so I guess this is big, right? If someone like Goldman's looking into this, we already saw that Barclays was interested in it. I mean, this is going to be a reality in less than I'd be surprised if it took more than a year for them to have a trading desk where you can just call them up, or whoever has got a Goldman account, you can just do whatever the hell you want in crypto, and they'll set it up and make it possible. And this is what they want, right? If the financial institutions are really in trouble and the stock market is eventually going to collapse, this is the savior. This is what keeps, this is crazy to be talking about, right? But the amount of money that's flowing into this damn thing, even Goldman Sachs is taking it seriously. So we just have to
but the problem ultimately here is, when you see an article like this, I distinctly remember Goldman Sachs came out and did a research report and publicly recommended people buy Bitcoins at $1,100 back in early 2014. So Goldman Sachs is inches closer to launching a Bitcoin trading desk. What the fuck are you talking about? They've had a Bitcoin trading desk for like the past 5 years.
I think it's available to the public.
So if that's the case, and I could go find that Goldman Sachs write-up from way back when. If that's the case, what's the purpose of this news article? What is it trying to serve? It's obviously serving somebody's purpose, right?
Yeah, this article might be a little different than, I think what you're referring to is Goldman buying their own Bitcoins. And I think this article is allowing their own clients to buy Bitcoin through them, which I don't think is currently available.
Okay. So if anything, they're they're saying that they're going to open up a kiosk,
potentially, or just give their investors the opportunity to purchase directly through them.
Okay, all right.
Sort of like a guarantee. Hey, if I want to buy $5 million, how am I going to get coverage for insurance, at least on any of the money that I buy? And that's how these institutions would play into.
Does anybody know of and is LedgerX still shrouded? Like is Joe Sixpack allowed to go on there yet?
You need to be an accredited investor to use LedgerX.
One of these days we'll get options on these damn things, and then all of this insurance talk can go bye-bye. So frustrating.
Yeah.
And it sucks for guys like Julian who want to do really good job at hedging, and Mex goes and pulls their funny games, right, and jumps the price on him, and he gets all dispirited and stuff. Can't wait till this sort of amateur hour is done. So I wonder, you think they're gonna they're pumping priming the pump? How does that work? Into some sort of official launch of their trading desk facilities? Is that what you're thinking here?
I think they're just setting themselves up to enter the market in a big way and allow people that have serious money to safely enter the market. And I just think this is it's an article that elucidates that their clients, their wealthy clients, they want access to this. And if people with money want access to this, then it's something that they're going to have to offer because it's a way for them to make money. That's really all I see it as. But
I suppose we ought to. We're running out of time here. We ought to talk about the real news of the day here, right?
Yeah, we should talk about this MyEtherWallet hack.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I said right at the top of the broadcast that Shane did his presentation on security yesterday. I don't know whether did and I thought I saw this morning Shane specifically said, and I specifically said, do not use online wallets. Was that correct, Shane?
I tried to waver away from that. Benjamin brought up using MyEtherWallet in an offline format. So kudos to Benjamin for bringing that up. I put that in the document. That's for sure.
All right. So Thomas, what's your take on this crazy ass Ethernet modem stuff? What is it? It's not Ethernet, is it? It's EtherWallet.
Yeah, so what happens is their DNS servers got hijacked. So essentially, if I get access to their DNS, to where they're registered through their DNS, I can just replicate the same website and push it through to being a live version. And then people are going to think, hey, I'm accessing MyEtherWallet, but really they're accessing my version of MyEtherWallet. And essentially anyone that's logging in is going to have their stuff stolen, right? Because if you're hijacking a site, you're running the whole thing. And unfortunately, this is what's happening here, where it's basically a phishing site, and they've stolen roughly, according to this, 215 Ether as of now, and it looks like they're splitting all of the stolen coins into various wallets. And then they said another malicious address with 298 Ether stolen. So this is shitty news. But I mean, I think I'll do it anyway. My computer is pretty solid here. So let's see what happens when we go to myetherwallet.com. I don't know if they got control of their DNS address or their DNS host again here, but it looks like I'm not able to log in. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this is not the right site, we should get a warning up here that says that the credentials are not valid. So you probably want to take a look at the certificate and make sure that this makes sense. So, I mean, I'm not 100% sure if this is the actual site here because it's giving me the go-ahead that it's secure, that it's giving me the right certificate. Let's see if we can get any other details that might tell us that it's not. And they may have just switched this over already. But anyone who knows more than me, feel free to chime in if I'm missing something to elucidate whether or not this has been taken over here. But as far as my browser is showing me, it looks like this has been converted back to the right DNS address.
Well, it was just a few servers that were taken out. I wouldn't say the whole internet globe was affected. Just a couple servers here and there. So there are targeted reports of places that do have DNS compromised.
So you're saying two-factor won't save you if they get your login and password?
It won't really. I'm not too sure actually. I'm not too sure how 2FA works with MyEtherWallet, but I believe it's.
Do they even have that?
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the sophistication of the attack, right? So if they are passing everything through and acting just as a man in the middle, then they're going to present you with the information from the site and basically pass your 2FA to the site when you enter it, right? But they shouldn't be able to establish a secure certificate without the private key. So in other words, you should see an error message in browsers like Chrome that the certificate doesn't match the host.
Cool. So that makes sense. So that would make it much easier for them to do this, and that's probably is what they did, where they used a man-in-the-middle attack to to forward off anyone's ether sucks. I mean, like,
Now,
what
can
really?
anybody just basically do one of these DNS attacks to any of these exchanges?
Grim, you want to chime in on that?
Is it possible? Yeah, but it's pretty difficult to overwrite the DNS entries for another server. So
Andrew says yes, it has happened before.
it's possible. It's not terribly likely, but it is possible. Yeah.
Hmm. So, and the reason why they went this route is this online wallet especially vulnerable or something?
I'd say it's just a honeypot, really. I mean, everyone touts my Ether wallet, so yeah, it was a great, it's a great target for hackers to go for.
Yeah, I mean, hackers are going to go for the targets that have the highest yield for the least work, right? So that's where it's part of the reason that I recommend that people not keep too much money on exchanges, if at all possible.
Lincoln says MEW was warned. Warned about what, Lincoln? Is MEW part of this?
MEW is short for my Ether wallet.
Oh, there's this stupid Brian.
No, right.
There was something I was going to say today that was going to make me look like an idiot.
There was, but there was a couple of tweets in January about Ethereum being compromised in this very DNS manner. Funny enough, so.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. What do you think, Thomas? Is there anything we want to sort of, it is the top of the hour. Do we want to leave off with this, or do we want to look at a couple names you're chewing on these days? Or actually, I did some buying on Cryptopia, whatever it's worth. It's the OGs on Twitter. They were getting all excited about this one, MSP. And frankly speaking, I look at the chart and you can see just a massive potential divergence, but there's even this cute little confirmed divergence that's working since the January peaks. Came back into a reload zone, put in lots of W's. So I was like, oh, what the heck? I mean, I got a whole bunch of Bitcoin just sitting on Cryptopia twiddling its thumbs. I'm just wondering what to do with it. So I went and did a little nibbling on this one. And what I thought was really cool about this trade is you can see that a double is just nothing more than just a rally back into reload zone from the January peaks. But look how high this thing used to be. If this thing ever gets its act together and gets going, geez, there's lots of upside up in here. So I went and did a little nibbling on this one. Kind of interesting name. And the Twitter kids that seem to do pretty well in crypto. I saw Alex, he was talking about, slowly accumulating this one. So I went and bought a little bit of that. Something for you to consider if you want to wait for the trend line test and then take the structure signal following it. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But there was enough reason for me to go nibble. So that's something that I bought recently. And that Walgreens. I got to hand it to Thomas. I think it's WTN, isn't it? No, what is it? He's been talking about this for a while. I really like the setup here. You can join me. You can see she's just sitting there. You could work a bid against the moving average. So that's just sitting there twiddling its thumb. So there's a couple names that I've been chewing on here just as of late. I don't know. You got any ideas that are new to the hopper that we can?
Yeah, you ain't gonna like it.
Huh?
You ain't gonna like it.
Oh, okay. You shorting Walton?
No. This is just, we got to come up with a name for the schmuck. This stupid thing's got way more room to move. Bitcoin Cash,
yeah.
They're burning, according to the article that I found, they've decided to burn roughly $12 right now of Bitcoin Cash per day. And the article is framed in the anti-Bitcoin Cash state. So the author clearly dislikes Bitcoin Cash because the headline says, while struggling to remain relevant. So if you're having a problem with your coin, people aren't interested in it anymore. why not make it more rare? And that's what they're doing here, is that in combination with, I believe it's Bitmain and Antpool. So Antpool is the Bitmain running pool. They have a separate wallet address where every day they're burning $12 worth of fees that are generated in Bitcoin Cash into a wallet that no one should ever have access to. And I make sure I stress that part of the sentence with making sure that nobody else should have access to, because you never know with this guy. But
Yeah,
it certainly created a buzz.
Isn't Antpool his mining operation?
I think him and Bitmain might be buddy. I think I've seen them in pictures together, and Antpool guys too. They're all, they're all sleeping in the same bed here.
If anything, the irony of it all is this is so blatant. You could literally sort of judge, does it make sense? The whole space is lifting, and it's almost like to a certain degree it's lifting because of this kind of stuff. I had sort of said that we certainly can't justify doing anything on it right now.
No.
It's sort of out in space here. I had sort of joked online that the setups were there, and I sort of gotten into Twitter barking matches with some clown who said technical analysis is useless. Over just me pointing out that I thought the setup was fairly straightforward. But in a later tweet, I even said, this story is just too icky. I didn't even want to touch it, so I didn't even take the trade. But I think, this is a wonderful time of year to go shopping. So, I went and picked up a little bit of this one, but, there are so many. We can just go through the list. Like I said, the Waltons. Why do I always want to call it what did I call it? Was the Walmarts?
You're calling it Walgreens.
I don't know. Anyway, these ideas, they're just sitting there. And really the question ultimately here is, I saw this, they're one by one. And this is what I think will happen is,
ding, ding, ding.
Oh, sorry. Looking at the wrong screen. You're just going to see these things, you can see the W here. You can see the pop-up. You can see the check of the breakout. You got to be able to pull the trigger here. And you can see these. This is another one that's heading off to the races that we bought a bit more through here. You can just see them one by one, mid, same sort of thing. You can see the bottom, see the check. So as they're bottoming, and then as they come down and check, like Walton's, Walmart, Walgreens. I'm sorry. You got to be able to step up when they do that, because like here, it's too late to be in buying these things when they're here. So just go through your list. You go through your screen. Somebody was actually asking, and I was wondering, can you see how versus Bitcoin, our old buddy ETC is trying to perk up here? Somebody was wondering, does anybody know what the sort of status of Barry is these days? Notice he's chatting about other things. I don't really see him talking about ETC too much these days.
He's still accumulating.
I guess so. I like the market. I love this is such a fucking awesome market state. But don't chase these. You got to buy them as they're breaking out. We waited long. Heard a lot of people chatting about CIS, but I don't know about that trade location. I'm not really a fan of that guy up there. I maybe through the rest of the week, now that you're back, we'll have more ideas to chew on. But I'm just seeing, you can see that the tide is lifting now, right? There were many days when we put on the screen through the winter where the amount of uppers versus downers was just not even comparable. It seems to be about. Actually, we should probably check in. Well, again, we noticed actually the breadth got a little too heavy there. Oh, medium term's 90%. Wow. I didn't realize that was that heavy. Well, maybe we have to take a bit of a pause here. I don't know. It's a tough one. Okay, interesting day. Nice to have the bear back in the fold. Bitcoin tastes great. Still moving up. And if anything, I didn't talk to you guys about this today, but I really love the institutional moving average system. you can kind of see here, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, you can't chase price up here. I actually thought that we were going to go sideways enough to let the fast moving average sort of catch up, but that still hasn't happened. So, but on balance, this is that sort of rising tide scenario. I think, as long as these moving averages are positive, institutions are going to be thinking positive here. So enjoy the market. It's a great time of year to go shopping for altcoins. Cryptopia has been very quiet. So if anything, let's maybe focus in on those names if you have them in your list. And of course, show me a W, and I might just go and buy some right as we speak. So, okay, guys, I'm done. You have anything else you want to add to the equation here today?
One last thing. Brian and I were talking about how frustrating it is that Binance takes their fees directly out of your order.
Oh, I hate that.
So now they've added in the functionality where you can convert decimal leftovers of your coins into BNB, and you can use that to pay your fees so they don't mess up and take out the coins that you think you're going to be getting out of each order.
You think that's a good idea?
I mean, why not, right? If you have a bunch of decimals sitting around and they're worth a couple bucks at most, why not, right? Then you actually get your full order in, and it keeps the accounting straightforward. Because I hate going into my spreadsheet thinking I put in an order for 400 and I only get 397.
I know. It's just, I mean, look at all this. Would Brian ever put in, and don't fuck around with my account, people. But would Brian ever put in, like, who the fuck's gonna buy like 5,994.412? Like, who's gonna buy that? I hate how they've done this to me. I mean, it's stupid. I never trade in odd lots, right? So just kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. So maybe an idea to chew on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll give it some serious thought. Nice to see that account. We funded this account just back in the wintertime with 1.65 BTC. It's not doing too bad, eh? Just in a few months worth of work.
Yeah.
You gotta feel pretty good considering Bitcoin hasn't done anything.
I suppose we should probably take another show and talk about DNS servers and anyone that uses the Google DNS, because it looks like that's what was compromised here. Because I actually remember people were having issues with Bittrex and Binance and getting to their websites. So if anyone's using Google DNS, make sure you do some research and figure out whether or not you might have been compromised in some way by using their DNS, because there were definitely some issues using their servers. And I know that I've used their DNS in the past because I have issues with my ISP back home, but definitely something to make sure you research. And I know that there should be like a new DNS was just released. I think it's 1.1.1. And the last I checked, it didn't work for me, but I think that this was supposed to improve upon the whole protect yourself from your ISP spying on you, and it's supposed to be a lot faster than what the Google DNS were providing. So it might be a good alternative. This is by Cloudflare, good alternative to Google DNS. So check that out. I'll do a little more research on that and see if I can't report on this in the next couple of days here. See if we can stay away.
That would be great, Thomas.
Yeah, and I don't know, Grim might know something more about that.
The new version of DNS was as a result of some published white papers with some threats that weren't yet discovered in the wild, but were discovered as possible to leverage DNS. So,
and I'm wondering if that's
1.1.1.1 supposed to address some of those issues. It has some back-end changes that are they're hoping to include in the RFC, which is the standard for the DNS.
Okay, so it might be a decent alternative here, but Benjamin's saying it's really too centralized.
Onto something, we need to have a decentralized DNS.
Yeah, I actually think there's a coin, ironically, that is built around that. I was just reading about it.
You guys are so smart.
Jay says it's
DYN. I clue what you're talking about right now. Okay, Old Man Beamish is going to bring an end to this. You guys want to And if anything, kind of like Shane did with his presentation yesterday on security, Thomas, if you want to put together a nice little presentation on DNS with added support by Grim and anybody else who'd like to participate, I think that's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
I'll just say one more thing. That document is free for anyone to comment. So if you guys have any more security related stuff that you'd like to throw in that document, I'll keep building that out. Absolutely.
Awesome. And, maybe even this conversation is part of that conversation. I did put it on the site. I thought I did. Yeah. So there is that Google Doc that Shane's talking about. If we want to beef this up with DNS stuff on there, Thomas, do you think you could throw that on there?
Yeah, I'll put together something about which DNS servers to use. I just, I want to make sure that everyone does their own research, right? Just because I put in there that it's a good idea to use 1.1.1.1 doesn't necessarily mean that it's resistant to man-in-the-middle attacks or DNS hijacking attempts. It's just right now, Google, being as big as it is, was a clear target here. And unfortunately, whoever the attackers were able to take advantage of a flaw in MyEtherWallet not securing their DNS. And that kind of sucks because anyone that's operating with that much money and other people's funds should certainly be taking security much more seriously. But there are much smarter people than I am at that stuff. So I'm happy to put it in the document.
We should get Stuart in on this conversation too. He's like super smarty about all this stuff.
Yeah, anyone with security experience, we definitely need you. So feel free to reach out to me or Brian, and we'll see if we can't get you to add more to the document, or even if you're willing to say a few words on the brief here. That'd be great.
Okay, everyone, why don't we call it a day? Great conversation. Talked lots Bitcoin, talked a little bit altcoin, talked a lot about broader market woes. Play from a position of strength, everybody. I think we're in for a nice little friendly window here, especially for alts. So, this is the classic, line, make hay while the sun's shining. I wouldn't be surprised that, Bitcoin does end up topping out here over the next few months. And then, if we have troubles into the election and all that kind of stuff, the landscape could go soft for a bit. And fall is, the fall is the fall. So, okay, guys, let's go out and have some fun. Follow those trading plans. Make Brian proud. Be emissaries of good behavior when you're chatting with your peers out in the real world. And let's all have a great day in the market. All right, guys, all the best, and bye for now.
Rawr.